Let's get one thing straight. Botswana isn't just elephants, lions, and dusty safaris. It's also a place where birds throw punches, dance better than humans, and sometimes straight up defy physics. Here's a question. What kind of bird kicks a snake to death, then walks off like it's just another Monday? Or weighs more than a Thanksgiving turkey, yet still takes flight like it's got something to prove? Welcome to the skies of Botswana, where beauty and brutality share the same wings. Out here, secretary birds patrol the savanna like soldiers, cranes waltz in golden crowns, and flocks of Queleas move so huge they can blot out the sun. This isn't a zoo. It's an air show choreographed by chaos. Every call, every flash of color, every wing beat is a reminder. Nature doesn't need permission to be dramatic. So before you hit skip, think about this. If you had one shot to see a bird in Botswana, would you pick the snake slayer, the royal dancer, or the living storm? By the end, you'll have your answer. Let's begin with the voice that defines Africa's wild soul, the African fish eagle. The voice of the wild itself, the African fish eagle. If there's one bird that can give you goosebumps just by opening its mouth, it's this one. Meet the African fish eagle, the voice of the wild, and one of Botswana's most iconic birds. With its snowy white head, chestnut body, and piercing yellow eyes, the fish eagle is a sight to behold. Perched high above the Okavango Delta, it waits with regal patience. Then comes the moment. Its loud, haunting cry rings across the water, a sound so powerful it's been called the soundtrack of Africa. Some say if Africa had a national anthem sung by a bird, this would be it. Here's a fun fact. The African fish eagle is so good at fishing that locals joke it's better than most fishermen. Using razor-sharp talons, it swoops down, skims the water, and snatches fish with astonishing accuracy. Sometimes it grabs one too heavy to lift, and instead of giving up, it'll paddle with its wings like an oversized duck. It's majestic and a little ridiculous at the same time. And here's the twist. Despite being a powerful hunter, this eagle has a sneaky side. If it spots another bird, like a heron or even another eagle, catching fish, it will sometimes swoop in and steal the meal midair. Think of it as the pirate of the skies, part king, part thief. The African fish eagle is more than just a bird. It's a cultural symbol. In many African nations, it represents freedom and strength, and its call is woven into local songs and legends. Seeing one in Botswana, wings spread against the endless sky, feels like meeting the very spirit of the land. So here's a question for you. If you were a fisherman in Botswana, would you rather compete with this eagle for your dinner or just sit back and enjoy the show? Drop your answer in the comments. And now from the mighty hunter of the skies, we step down to meet the heavyweight champion of the savannah, the Kori bustard, the heaviest flying bird on earth. From the soaring cry of the fish eagle, we now meet a bird that prefers to keep its feet on solid ground. Say hello to the Kori bustard, the heavyweight champion of the bird world, and the heaviest flying bird on the planet. This giant can weigh over 40 pounds, which is about the same as a medium-sized dog. Seeing it take off is like watching a cargo plane lift from a short runway. Slow, lumbering, and a little nerve-wracking. But once airborne, it proves size isn't everything, gliding smoothly across the savanna with surprising grace. Here's a fun fact. Male Kori bustards perform one of the most outrageous courtship displays in the bird kingdom. To impress females, they puff out their necks, inflate their throats like balloons, and strut around with their tails raised, looking like feathered parade floats. It's equal parts impressive and ridiculous, nature's own comedy show. And here's the twist. For all their size and flair, Kori bustards are actually quite shy. They spend most of their time quietly foraging for insects, seeds, and small reptiles on the ground, blending into the dry grass. Unless you catch one mid-display, you might mistake it for a big, awkward turkey wandering the savanna. Despite being widespread in southern Africa, their numbers are declining due to hunting and habitat loss. Because of their size, they've long been targeted as game birds. Conservationists now work to protect them, reminding us that even giants can be vulnerable. The Kori bustard is more than just a curiosity. It's a symbol of Botswana's open landscapes, where size and strength meet subtlety and survival. So here's a question. If you were a bird, would you rather soar gracefully like the fish eagle or strut around like the Cory bustard, the king of the savanna dance floor? Tell us in the comments. And now, from the heavyweight of the skies, we move to a dancer dressed in gold. Let's meet the elegant gray-crowned crane. From the heavyweight strut of the Cory bustard, we move to one of the most elegant dancers in all of Africa. Meet the gray-crowned crane, a bird so stylish it looks like it's always ready for a royal ball. Standing tall with long, graceful legs and a body of soft, gray plumage, the crane already has an air of sophistication. But the real showstopper is its golden crown of stiff feathers, fanning out like a burst of sunlight. Add a bright red throat pouch and you've got one of the most glamorous birds in Botswana. Here's a fun fact. Crowned cranes are famous for their courtship dances. They bow, leap, flap their wings, and spin in synchronized routines that look like ballet performances. What's even better? They don't just dance during breeding season. These cranes dance all year round, just for fun. Imagine being so full of joy that you break into dance whenever you feel like it. That's the life of a crowned crane. But here's the twist. Unlike most cranes, gray-crowned cranes can actually perch in trees. Thanks to a long hind toe, they can grip branches, something their heavier cousins can't manage. Seeing a 6-foot-tall crane balancing on a tree limb is one of those "wait, what?" moments that makes you look twice. Beyond their beauty, these cranes play an important role in African wetlands, feeding on insects, seeds, and small animals, keeping ecosystems balanced. Sadly, they're also threatened by habitat loss and the illegal pet trade. Their elegance makes them desirable, but it also puts them at risk. Still, spotting a pair of gray-crowned cranes dancing against the backdrop of Botswana's floodplains is pure magic, a moment that feels both timeless and celebratory. So here's a question. If you could learn one bird dance move, would you copy the strut of the bustard or the graceful spins of the crowned crane? Drop your answer in the comments. And now, from a bird that waltzes across wetlands, we turn to a raptor that prefers to walk the grasslands on stilt-like legs, the snake-stomping Secretarybird. After the elegance of the gray-crowned crane, it's time to meet a bird that struts across the savanna with a very different vibe. Meet the Secretarybird, a raptor so unusual it looks like someone mixed an eagle with a crane and then gave it a business suit. This bird stands nearly 4 feet tall, with long, stork-like legs, an eagle's hooked beak, and a crest of black feathers that stick out like quill pens. That's actually how it got its name. Early Europeans thought it looked like an old-fashioned secretary with feathers tucked behind the ear. Imagine a bird showing up for work every day, ready to file paperwork and stomp snakes. Here's a fun fact. The Secretarybird is one of the few birds of prey that hunts entirely on foot. Instead of soaring after prey, it marches across the grasslands, using those long legs to stomp on insects, small mammals, and most famously, snakes. And when it strikes, it's with bone-crushing force, enough to kill a cobra with a single kick. Talk about workplace efficiency. But here's the twist. Despite their fearsome reputation, Secretarybirds can be downright goofy. They'll sometimes chase each other in playful runs, wings outstretched like kids pretending to be airplanes. It's a reminder that even snake stompers like to have fun. These birds are also deeply symbolic. In many African cultures, they represent strength and protection, and they even appear on national emblems, including South Africa's coat of arms. Seeing one striding across Botswana's open plains feels like watching a guardian patrol the land. Sadly, habitat loss and persecution threaten them across Africa. Their numbers are falling, making every encounter even more special. So here's a question. If you could have one superpower, would you choose the soaring cry of the fish eagle or the snake-stomping kick of the Secretarybird? Share your pick in the comments. And now, from a raptor that hunts on foot, we move to a bird so light-footed it can literally walk on water, the African jacana. From a bird that stomps snakes with superhero kicks, we now meet one that seems to have mastered a miracle, walking on water. Say hello to the African jacana, better known as the Jesus bird. At first glance, this bird doesn't look particularly divine. It's medium-sized chestnut brown with striking white underparts and a baby blue forehead shield. But the real showstoppers are its legs. Extra long toes and claws spread its weight so perfectly that it can stride across floating lily pads without sinking. From a distance, it really does look like it's walking on water, leaving first-time visitors to Botswana rubbing their eyes in disbelief. Here's a fun fact. Jacanas are role reversal champions. In this species, the females are larger, louder, and often have multiple mates. The males? They're the homemakers. Dad takes charge of nest building, egg incubating, and chick rearing. Imagine a single father carrying fluffy chicks under his wings, running across lily pads. It's as adorable as it is unexpected. And here's the twist. Despite their light-footed grace, jacanas can be surprisingly clumsy. Those oversized toes sometimes get tangled, sending them tripping or stumbling across the pads like a slapstick comedy routine. Even the best water walkers have off days. Beyond their charm, jacanas are vital to wetland ecosystems. They control insect populations and spread plant seeds as they forage, keeping the watery landscapes of Botswana healthy and balanced. Their presence is a sign that the wetlands are thriving. But shrinking wetlands from human activity and climate change put these miracle walkers at risk. Protecting their habitats means preserving one of Africa's most delightful natural illusions. So here's a question. If you had the chance, would you rather watch the secretary-bird stomp a cobra or see the jacana tiptoe across lily pads with baby chicks under its wings? Drop your answer below. And now, from one water walker, we move to a feathered jewel of the Delta, a bird so small and dazzling, it looks like a living gemstone, the malachite kingfisher. After the lily pad ballet of the jacana, it's time to meet a bird so tiny and dazzling, it looks like it was carved from gemstones. Say hello to the malachite kingfisher, a living jewel of Botswana's wetlands. This bird is small, barely 5 inches long, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in color. Its head glows electric blue with a spiky crest. Its back shimmers like polished sapphire, and its chest is a warm, fiery orange. When sunlight hits just right, the malachite kingfisher looks like a flying piece of jewelry darting across the reeds. Here's a fun fact. Despite its delicate appearance, this kingfisher is a fierce little hunter. Perched silently on a reed stalk, it waits for the slightest ripple in the water. Then with a sudden dive, it plunges headfirst and emerges with a tiny fish or insect in its bill. For such a flashy bird, it's surprisingly stealthy. But here's the twist. Kingfishers are not always successful. Sometimes they dive a little too early or too late and come up dripping wet with nothing to show for it. Watching one shake itself off and try again is a reminder that even the most dazzling hunters have clumsy moments. The malachite kingfisher is also a symbol of health for wetlands. If these little gems are around, it means the water is clean and full of life. Lose the kingfishers, and you know the ecosystem is in trouble. Though not endangered, they face challenges from pollution and habitat loss as rivers are altered. Protecting them means protecting the sparkling heart of Botswana's waterways. So here's a question. If you had to photograph one bird, would you go for the miracle walking jacana or this jewel-toned kingfisher perched like treasure among the reeds? Let us know in the comments. And now, from a tiny bird with gemstone feathers, we soar to a rainbow of colors that fills the sky with acrobatic flight. The spectacular lilac-breasted roller. From the jewel-toned kingfisher, we now take to the skies with a bird that looks like it flew straight out of a painting. Meet the lilac-breasted roller, one of Africa's most photographed and beloved birds. And for good reason. This roller is a living rainbow. Its breast glows lilac, blending into turquoise wings, with flashes of green, blue, and even cinnamon along its back. Add its long tail streamers, and you've got a bird that could make a peacock jealous. But beauty isn't its only trick. Watch one in flight, and you'll see why it's called a roller. Here's a fun fact. During courtship or territorial displays, the roller performs dramatic dives and rolls in the air, twisting and flipping like an acrobat. Imagine an air show, but with feathers instead of jet engines. In fact, many safari guides call it the acrobatic artist of Africa. But here's the twist. For all its dazzling color, the lilac-breasted roller is also fiercely territorial. It perches boldly on trees or fence posts, scanning for insects, lizards, or even small birds, and will chase off rivals with surprising aggression. It's like a rainbow with an attitude problem. The roller also has cultural significance. In some African traditions, its feathers are seen as symbols of peace and good fortune. Spotting one at the start of a safari is considered a sign you're in for an unforgettable journey. Though not endangered, rollers rely on open savanna habitats. As human development spreads, they lose the perches they depend on to spot prey. Protecting wide open spaces ensures this rainbow bird keeps lighting up African skies. So here's a question. If you had to hang one bird photo on your wall, would you choose the sparkling kingfisher by the reeds or the rainbow roller frozen mid-flip in the sky? Share your pick below. And now, from a rainbow in the sky, we go back down to earth, literally, to meet a giant ground-hunting hornbill with a voice that rumbles like thunder. The southern ground hornbill. From the rainbow acrobat of the skies, we now meet a bird that prefers to keep its feet firmly planted on the ground. This is the southern ground hornbill, a bird so big and bold it feels more like a character than just another species. Standing nearly 4 feet tall, with glossy black feathers and a bright red face and throat pouch, the ground hornbill is impossible to miss. Its heavy bill looks built for business, and when it struts across the savanna in family groups, you get the sense that it owns the place. Here's a fun fact. These hornbills are cooperative hunters. Unlike most hornbills that feed on fruit, the ground hornbill is a carnivore, stalking the grasslands for snakes, frogs, insects, and even small mammals. They hunt as a team, with family members spreading out and flushing prey toward one another, almost like a tactical squad. But here's the twist. For all their seriousness, they're also comedians. Sometimes you'll see them tossing prey in the air before swallowing, almost as if they're showing off. Their booming calls, deep, resonant notes that carry for miles, make the ground vibrate. Many locals say you can feel a hornbill before you see it. Culturally, the ground hornbill is a bird of mystery. In some traditions, it's revered as a rainbringer, while in others, its calls are linked to omens. Either way, it's a bird that commands respect. Sadly, they're endangered across much of their range, mostly because they need huge territories and large trees for nesting, habitats that are disappearing fast. Conservationists now consider them one of Africa's most important flagship species for savanna protection. So here's a question. If you had to choose a family protector, would you rather have the colorful but fiery roller or the black-feathered hornbill squad booming their calls across the plains? Tell us in the comments. And now, from a giant that walks the land, we meet its sleeker, more common cousin, the African gray hornbill, a woodland trickster with plenty of charm. After the booming presence of the southern ground hornbill, it's time to meet its slimmer, more easygoing cousin, the African gray hornbill. Not as massive or intimidating, but certainly one of Botswana's most charismatic woodland birds. This hornbill wears a more modest outfit, soft gray feathers, a white belly, and a long curved bill with a delicate casque on top. It may not have the fire-red face of its ground-dwelling relative, but it makes up for it with charm and constant chatter. If the ground hornbill is the booming bass in Botswana's bird orchestra, the gray hornbill is the lively saxophone, adding rhythm to the soundtrack of the savanna. Here's a fun fact. These hornbills are famous for their unusual nesting behavior. The female seals herself inside a tree cavity using mud and droppings, leaving only a narrow slit. She stays inside while the male delivers food through the slit for weeks, sometimes with the help of other hornbills. It's one of nature's most unusual lockdown parenting strategies, and it works. But here's the twist. Despite being fairly common, the gray hornbill has a mischievous side. They've been known to swoop down on picnic sites, snatching unattended food. Imagine sitting under a tree with your sandwich, only to have it stolen by a bird with a giant bill. It happens. These hornbills also play an important ecological role. They eat a mix of fruit and insects, making them both gardeners of the forest and pest controllers. Every fig they swallow and later replant helps keep Botswana's woodlands alive. Though widespread, they still rely on old trees with nesting cavities, which are often lost to logging and land clearance. Protecting woodland habitats means protecting the gray hornbill's chatter in the African soundscape. So here's a question. If you had to share a lunch spot, would you rather risk the booming, red-faced ground hornbill stomping by, or the sly gray hornbill swooping in to steal your snack? Drop your answer in the comments. And now, from a trickster with a curved bill, we move to a stork with one of the strangest beaks in Africa, the snail-cracking African openbill. From the chatter of the gray hornbill, we now meet a bird with a beak so strange it looks broken. But in reality, it's a perfectly engineered tool. This is the African openbill, a stork that proves weird designs can be brilliant. At first glance, the openbill looks like other storks. Tall, dark plumage with a slightly hunched stance. But take a closer look and you'll see the oddity. Its upper and lower bill don't quite meet. There's a permanent gap, a strange open space in the middle of the beak. Most people's first reaction is, oh, that bird's injured. But nope, that gap is exactly what makes it special. Here's a fun fact. The openbill's diet is dominated by snails, especially freshwater mussels. The gap in its bill is the perfect clamp, allowing it to grip and twist shells open with surgeon-like precision. Imagine having chopsticks permanently built into your face. That's the openbill advantage. But here's the twist. While they're specialized snail eaters, openbills can sometimes get a little too ambitious. There are reports of birds struggling comically with oversized shells, dropping them again and again until they finally give up. Even master tools have their limits. Watching them feed along Botswana's wetlands is mesmerizing. They probe shallow waters, pull out snails, and flick them open with ease. And when hundreds gather together, the sound of shells cracking echoes across the floodplains. It's like nature's own percussion section. The African openbill is not considered endangered, but its reliance on clean, healthy wetlands makes it vulnerable to pollution and habitat loss. Protecting rivers and floodplains ensures that these snail specialists continue their strange but important role in the ecosystem. So here's a question. If you had to eat with a custom-designed tool built into your body, would you pick chopstick style like the openbill? Or maybe a Swiss Army knife approach? Share your thoughts below. And now, from a stork with a strange, gap-toothed smile, we move to a smaller, darker bird of the marsh. A secretive little rail with glossy black feathers and a fiery red bill, the black crake. After the snail-cracking skills of the openbill, let's shrink down to a bird that doesn't need size to make an impression. Meet the black crake, a small but fiery wetland bird that proves attitude comes in all packages. This crake wears glossy black plumage that shines in the sunlight, paired with bright yellow legs and a bold red bill. It's like nature dressed it in formal wear and then added neon accessories just for fun. You won't mistake it for anything else. Here's a fun fact. Unlike many shy marsh birds, the black crake is surprisingly bold. It struts out in the open, walking right across floating vegetation or even along the edges of hippo pools. Some have even been seen perched on the backs of hippos, picking insects off their massive hides. Talk about fearless hitchhikers. But here's the twist. For all its swagger, the black crake is clumsy in flight. When startled, it often flutters awkwardly just a few feet above the water before crash landing back into the reeds. It's built more for running across lily pads than soaring through the sky. These crakes are also fantastic parents. Both male and female share chick-rearing duties, and older siblings sometimes pitch in too. Families stick together, raising multiple broods in a single season. Watching a group of tiny black fluff balls running after their parents is one of the pure joys of Botswana's wetlands. Though not endangered, black crakes depend on healthy marshes and slow-flowing rivers. Drainage and pollution can quickly make their habitats unsuitable. Protecting wetlands doesn't just save hippos. It saves the bold little crake that walks across their backs. So here's a question. If you were on safari, would you rather spot the giant eagle soaring overhead or catch this little daredevil confidently riding on a hippo's back? Tell us in the comments. And now, from a bird that struts across marshes, we rise into the skies again to meet a tiny falcon with fiery plumage and lightning-fast hunting skills. The red-necked falcon. From the bold little black crake of the wetlands, we now look skyward to meet a hunter built for speed and precision. Say hello to the red-necked falcon, a small but striking raptor that hunts with the style of a fighter jet. This falcon is easy to recognize. Its slate gray back and wings are offset by a white belly covered in fine streaks, and of course that namesake red hood and neck patch that give it a fiery look. Add in yellow eye rings and legs, and you've got a bird that looks sharp, fast, and ready for action. Here's a fun fact. Red-necked falcons often hunt in pairs. One bird flushes prey, usually small birds like doves or larks, while the other swoops in at blazing speed to make the catch. It's teamwork in the skies, almost like watching a well-trained aerial squadron execute maneuvers. But here's the twist. Despite their lethal hunting skills, these falcons can be surprisingly playful. Observers have seen them chasing each other in midair, performing loops and dives even when they're not hunting. It's as if they can't resist showing off their flying skills just for fun. The red-necked falcon is also an important part of Botswana's ecosystem. By keeping populations of smaller birds in check, it maintains balance in the savanna skies. Watching one hover for a moment and then explode into a high-speed dive is pure adrenaline in feathered form. Though not considered endangered, they face threats from habitat change in collisions with man-made structures. Protecting open grasslands and woodlands ensures these skilled hunters continue to light up Botswana's skies. So here's a question. If you had to choose one safari moment, would you rather watch the crake boldly walking across a hippo's back or a red-necked falcon streaking through the air like a missile? Share your answer below. And now, from a sky racer with fiery feathers, we glide down to the water's edge to meet a stealthy fisherman in green and gray, the green-backed heron. From the lightning-fast strike of the red-necked falcon, we slow things down with a master of patience and stealth. Meet the green-backed heron, a small but cunning bird that proves hunting isn't always about speed, it's about strategy. This heron is compact compared to its lanky cousins. Its back glows a dark, metallic green, its chest and belly are streaked in gray and white, and its bright yellow eyes look like they can pierce straight into the water. Perched low among reeds, it almost vanishes into the shadows until, snap, it strikes. Here's a fun fact. The green-backed heron is one of the few birds known to use tools. That's right, it's a fisherman with bait. It will drop insects, twigs, or even breadcrumbs on the water's surface to lure in fish, then strike when the curious prey comes too close. Think of it as the MacGyver of the bird world, turning whatever it finds into fishing gear. But here's the twist. For all its intelligence, the heron's hunts don't always go as planned. Sometimes the bait floats away, or fish ignore it completely. Watching one stare at a drifting leaf as if annoyed by the failed trick is both hilarious and oddly relatable. We've all had days when the plan just doesn't work out. These herons are solitary and quiet, rarely seen in big flocks. Spotting one along Botswana's waterways feels like discovering a secret little hunter that most safari-goers overlook. While not endangered, the green-backed heron depends on clean, fish-filled waters. Pollution or wetland loss can quickly turn its hunting grounds into empty pools. Protecting wetlands means preserving not just beauty, but ingenuity in the wild. So here's a question. Would you rather witness the falcon's high-speed aerial strike or this clever heron patiently tricking a fish with homemade bait? Let us know in the comments. And now, from a sneaky solo fisherman, we move to a much louder presence in Botswana's wetlands, the musical, white-faced whistling duck. From the stealth of the green-backed heron, we now turn up the volume with a bird that can't help but sing its way into the spotlight. Meet the white-faced whistling duck, a water bird that brings music to Botswana's wetlands. This duck is instantly recognizable. Its crisp white face contrasts sharply with its dark head and neck, while its chest glows a warm chestnut. Add sleek gray wings and a slender body, and it looks more elegant than your average duck. But what really sets it apart isn't its look, it's the sound. Here's a fun fact. Instead of quacking like most ducks, this species whistles, High-pitched melodious notes echo across lakes and marshes, often in chorus when flocks gather. Imagine hundreds of ducks performing a symphony of whistles. It's charming, a little chaotic, and unforgettable. But here's the twist. For such graceful-looking birds, their flocks can be rowdy. They gather in massive groups, crowding wetlands, and when one bird takes off, the whole flock often erupts into a flurry of wings and whistles. It's less like a calm pond and more like a party that suddenly went wild. These ducks are also great travelers. They move nomadically in search of water, sometimes covering long distances between seasonal pools. Their presence is often a signal that a wetland is healthy and alive. Though widespread and not endangered, their reliance on open wetlands means they're vulnerable to drought and water mismanagement. Keeping Botswana's waterways intact ensures these whistling flocks continue adding music to the landscape. So here's a question. If you had to pick a soundtrack for your safari, would you choose the quiet patience of the heron or the lively whistle choir of these ducks? Share your thoughts in the comments. And now for our grand finale, we leave the marshes behind and head into the skies, where millions of tiny birds come together in a breathtaking storm. Let's meet the red-billed Quelea, the most numerous bird in the world. From the musical flocks of the whistling duck, we end our journey with a bird that turns the sky itself into a living storm. Meet the red-billed Quelea, the most numerous wild bird on the planet, and Botswana's grand finale. On its own, a Quelea isn't particularly flashy. It's a small sparrow-sized bird with streaky brown plumage and a bright red beak. Nothing too dramatic until you see them in a flock, because when Queleas gather, they gather by the millions. Here's a fun fact. A single flock of red-billed Queleas can number over 1 million birds, moving in synchronized waves that ripple through the sky like giant clouds. The sound of their wings is like rushing wind, and when they land on grain fields, they can strip them bare in minutes. Farmers sometimes call them feathered locusts. But here's the twist. For all their destructive power, these birds are also mesmerizing to watch. Their swarming movements create living patterns, shifting and twisting in perfect harmony, like nature's own light show without the lights. Safari goers often describe the experience as both overwhelming and awe-inspiring. Queleas thrive because they adapt so easily. They breed in massive colonies near water, raising chicks quickly and then moving on with the rains. They are survivors perfectly tuned to Africa's unpredictable climate. Though not endangered, quite the opposite, in fact, their massive numbers remind us how powerful nature can be when conditions are just right. One tiny bird may not matter much, but together they create one of the greatest wildlife spectacles on Earth. So here's a question. If you had to choose your ultimate Botswana memory, would it be the eagle's cry, the snake-stomping Secretarybird, or this breathtaking storm of Queleas? Let us know in the comments. And now, let's step back and take in everything we've seen on this journey through Botswana's skies, rivers, and savannas. And there you have it, 15 birds that prove Botswana's skies don't just fly, they perform. From the thunder cry of the African fish eagle, to the swagger of the Kori bustard, the snake-stomping precision of the Secretarybird, the miracle walk of the wee jacana, and of course that endless living storm of our red-billed Queleas. This country doesn't do ordinary. Every wingbeat here carries a story. Some are wild, some are sacred, and some, well, they're just plain weird in the best possible way. But that's the beauty of Botswana. It's not just wilderness, it's rhythm. Every wetland, every stretch of savanna breathes because these birds still live, still hunt, still dance. Lose them, and you lose the music. So let me ask you, if you could stand in the middle of Botswana right now, camera in hand, and see just one of these legends in person, which would it be? The rainbow roller, the snake-slaying secretary, or the sky-darkening Quelea? Tell me in the comments. Let's see who wins this one. And hey, don't wander too far. Our next stop, a place where feathers meet fire and legends never die. You'll want to see this one.